The darkness held its breath, as if the night itself was waiting for something to happen. Silence, heavy and thick, pressed in from all sides, creating an almost tangible barrier. It was the kind of silence that feels like a presence, suffocating, waiting, as if the air itself was alive with anticipation. In a small town nestled amid rolling hills where secrets whispered through the wind, there stood an ancient house, its walls steeped in history and mystery. It perched atop a hill, overlooking the town like a watchful gargoyle, its windows dark and foreboding. Locals spoke of the house in hushed tones, their words laced with fear and superstition, as if speaking too loudly might awaken whatever lurked within. The house, they said, was a vessel, a conduit for something dark and sinister, a place where shadows moved of their own accord. One humid summer night, as a storm raged outside, a young woman named Amelia found herself alone in the house, the wind howling like a chorus of lost souls. She had been hired to care for the elderly owner, a reclusive woman who had recently passed away, leaving the house and its secrets behind. The storm howled around the house, its fury echoing Amelia's growing unease, each thunderclap a reminder of her isolation. A floorboard creaked in the hallway outside her room, the sound sharp and sudden in the oppressive silence. Amelia's heart hammered in her chest, each beat a drum of fear that echoed in her ears. She told herself it was just the wind, the house settling, but the rationalization felt hollow. But deep down, a primal fear whispered a different story, one of ancient evils and restless spirits. Amelia crept towards the door, each step a monumental effort against the growing dread that threatened to consume her completely. The floorboards groaned beneath her feet, echoing in the silence. She pressed her ear against the cold, rough wood. Silence enveloped her. Suddenly a sound, soft and breathy like a whisper against her ear, broke the stillness. Amelia recoiled, her blood turning to ice, her heart pounding in her chest. The whisper seemed to come from inside the room, close, intimate, almost familiar. She fumbled for the light switch, her hand trembling uncontrollably. The bare bulb flickered to life, casting long, distorted shadows across the room, adding to the eerie atmosphere. The air grew heavy, thick with an unseen presence, almost suffocating. Amelia scanned the room, her eyes wide with terror, but the room was empty, devoid of any life. Amelia tried to calm her racing heart. Her mind, desperate for a rational explanation, grasped at straws. The wind, she told herself, playing tricks on her nerves. She had to leave this room, this house. As she turned to go, a glimmer of light caught her eye. It came from beneath the door at the end of the hallway, a room that had been locked, forbidden by the old woman. Curiosity, a dangerous siren song in the darkness, warred with Amelia's fear. She took a hesitant step towards the glimmering light, then another, drawn by an unseen force. The floorboards groaned in protest, each creak echoing like a scream in the silence. Her hand, trembling, reached for the doorknob. The doorknob turned with a heavy click. The door creaked open, revealing a dusty, dimly lit room. The air hung heavy and stagnant, thick with the scent of decay. Amelia stepped inside, her heart pounding in her chest. As her eyes adjusted to the gloom, she noticed a large, ornate mirror on the far wall. Its surface was clouded with age, obscuring its reflection. Amelia cautiously approached the mirror, drawn to its strange allure. As she peered into its depths, she saw a flicker of movement in the reflection. Her breath caught in her throat. A face, pale and gaunt, with eyes that burned with an unholy light, stared back at her. Amelia stumbled back in terror, a scream rising in her throat, but the scream died before it could escape her lips, choked by the sheer terror that gripped her. The face in the mirror, its eyes burning into her soul, vanished as quickly as it had appeared. She spun around, searching the room for the source of the terrifying apparition. But the room was empty, silent except for the sound of her own ragged breathing. The air grew colder, sending a shiver down her spine. Amelia knew, with a certainty that chilled her to the bone, that she was not alone. Something was in the room with her, something unseen, malevolent. Driven by a primal need to escape, Amelia fled the room, her heart pounding in her chest like a drum. The darkness seemed to close in around her, suffocating and oppressive, her bare feet pounding on the wooden floor. She raced through the hallway, the shadows dancing menacingly on the walls, her breath coming in ragged gasps. As she ran, she heard the sound of footsteps behind her, echoing through the narrow corridor, slow, deliberate, measured. Something was following her. She burst out of the house and into the storm, the door slamming shut behind her with a deafening crash, the wind whipping her hair around her face. The rain, cold and relentless, lashed at her skin, soaking her to the bone. But Amelia didn't stop running, not until she reached the safety of the town below. The lights of the town were a beacon of hope in the stormy night. Years later, long after the events of that night, Amelia stumbled upon an old newspaper article. The yellowed pages and faded ink told a story she could hardly believe. It told the story of a family who had once lived in the house on the hill, a family whose presence still seemed to linger in the shadows, a family that had met a gruesome end. The article hinted at dark secrets and untold horrors, leaving Amelia with more questions than answers. The article included a sketch of the family, their faces frozen in time. The image was haunting, capturing a moment long gone, yet still echoing through the corridors of history. Each face told a story that was abruptly cut short, leaving behind a trail of unanswered questions and lingering mysteries. And there, staring back at Amelia from the faded newsprint, was the face she had seen in the mirror, the face of the unseen guest that had haunted her dreams for so long. It was as if the past had reached out to touch the present, blurring the lines between reality and the supernatural. Were the spirits of the family trapped in the house, their souls unable to find peace? The house itself seemed to breathe with a life of its own, its walls whispering secrets of sorrow and despair. Every creak of the floorboards, every gust of wind through the broken windows seemed to carry the weight of their unfulfilled destinies. Or was there something more sinister at play? Something that fed on fear and despair? A malevolent force that thrived in the darkness, preying on the vulnerable and the lost. The very air in the house felt thick with malevolence, as if it were alive with the presence of something ancient and evil. Amelia never returned to the house on the hill, but the memory of that night and the horrifying face in the mirror continued to haunt her until the day she died. She often wondered if she had glimpsed into another world, a world where the dead lingered and the living were mere intruders. The truth of what Amelia saw that night remains a chilling mystery, a terrifying reminder that some secrets are best left buried. The house on the hill stands as a silent sentinel, guarding its dark secrets, waiting for the next curious soul to uncover its haunting past.